Stop fucking around with the babies. Just take a baby.
Just
get the
take a-
fuck out of
Take
there.
a baby.
I
We're
know.
gonna-
There's
that
so many
is-
babies. Like you just
That's
keep
now a
picking
sound
them
clip
up.
from you.
Just take a baby.
Right now is the time for me to leave everything I know behind.
We'll get him back.
Come on, try.
That's just all there is to it. And you want to know another thing? I'm going to be a better person from here on out. And that's final. I mean, that's absolutely the way it's going to be. That's official. And you were right. And I was wrong. A blind man could tell you that. Now, they ain't going to hurt him. They're just in it for the score. But I ain't like that no more. I'm a changed man. You were right. And I was wrong. Well, we got a family here. And I'm going to start acting responsibly. So let's go, honey. Let's go get Nathan Jr.
Very good
Okay.
dramatic pause there.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought you were done, but there was
How
more.
about that?
That was
And with
dramatic.
that, welcome everybody to episode number 44 of Rabbit Fighters,
44.
the
Obama.
family-friendly podcast that always aims high, yet invariably lands with a resounding punch to the junk. My name is Brian, and I'll be your host for this here episode. With me, as always, are my brothers in pod, Gregory and Joshua. What say you fellas? Either of you bring the huggies?
Today, I am Leonard Smalls.
Oh,
I am
sorry.
not Greg. I am Leonard Smalls. You know, of the Arizona Smalls.
Oh, and Joshua's the feisty hayseed. It looks
Yeah.
like.
I have a panty on my head.
Yep. Pasty on my head.
Panty on his head.
So
Good stuff.
the unwatched Wheel of Fate landed on me last week, and with my pick, I drafted the 1987 sophomore film of brothers Joel and Ethan Coen, Raising Arizona, starring
Yay.
Nicolas Cage as the ex-con and hapless stick-up man, H.I. McDonough, Holly Hunter as Ed, or Edwina, his bride and policewoman, Trey Wilson as furniture magnate Nathan Arizona Sr., who we actually recently talked about in our Bull Durham episode.
Yes. Boulder.
He also
Yeah.
started 1978's Vampire Hookers, which I'm adding to the list immediately.
Yeah.
less well known. Yeah.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
Yeah. And notable Coen favorite, John Goodman as Gale, alongside William Forsythe as fellow felons and prison buddies of H.I. And then we've got Sam McMurray and Frances McDormand kind of round out the main cast. And we'll talk about what this movie entails. It's kind of it's a comedy, but I figured I would let one of you two, perhaps Joshua, who is sort of, let's just say, in love with this movie. And I figured as we get into it, he may help to flesh out the slapsticky Coen Brothers adventure, which
Yeah, you want me to do the plot synopsis?
well, you know, I guess I want to talk about why maybe I haven't seen it before.
Okay.
And I don't really know the answer to that, actually.
Where were you in 1987?
Yeah, there's a few Coen Brothers movies that I have not seen. Well, this is probably the one I had not seen completely. I'd say because the other two would be Blood Simple and Barton Fink. But I've seen parts of Barton Fink, and I actually, upon watching this, there was a couple scenes where I was like, oh, I remember. Like, I probably caught this on TV at some point where I remembered a scene or two, but I had no context of what's happening. So,
So are we talking you've seen every Coen Brothers movie, or are you just talking about early Coen Brothers?
I think I've seen every Coen Brothers movie except for this one, and maybe
Inside Llewyn Davis?
yeah, I've seen.
No,
them all.
I haven't seen.
There's a bunch of their newer
bunch
stuff I haven't seen. Yeah.
have not seen. Yeah, same thing. Yeah, I forgot
would say,
Inside Llewyn Davis even
to-
existed.
To use like what is it, like the SAT thing? Like the Coen Brothers are to me what Wes Anderson is to Joshua.
Ah,
Way.
interesting.
Yes.
Like, I love their films, but these first two, Fargo kind of hooked me with them. You know,
Mhm.
obviously Big Lebowski, but I've seen probably Fargo the most. I'd guess that or maybe
Over Big Lebowski? You've seen Fargo more than Big Lebowski?
I think so. Honestly,
Shocking.
That I've seen Oh Brother Where Art Thou quite a few times too, but Big Lebowski's up there. I mean, just because.
Yeah,
But I would be willing to bet I'd seen Fargo more.
I think I've only seen Fargo twice.
Yeah, me too.
My intro to them was Barton Fink, and I loved it. And then went back and we saw like Blood Simple came on TV and we saw it, and I was like, it's kind of horrifying. I saw this in passing long ago, right after it came out. It was on cable, and I was still living with my parents and stuff, and so that was the last time I'd seen this movie, Raising Arizona. And then I went on to see a bunch of their other stuff afterward, like, like Fargo and The Big Lebowski and Burn After Reading, which I was like, this isn't very good. It was one of those movies that you keep wanting to like it. You're like, oh, it's going to get better. And then you're like, nah, it's kind of like a half-assed Coen Brothers movie. I remember one of my favorite writers is Kurt Vonnegut, and he has this book. I forget what it's called, but he basically, in the foreword of the book, he's like, this book I have written to get rid of all these recurring characters that I keep putting in my other books because they keep using these characters in books, and I need to put them to bed. So I've written this book specifically to put my trope characters that I use over and over again to bed. And here we go. And you probably won't see them again, but you might. And then Burn After Reading felt like that to me for the Coen Brothers, where it was just like a whole like a whole crock of their stereotype characters and scenarios and stuff like that, just jumbled together into this one thing. And it just felt like them purging a little bit.
All their less than B-roll characters.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I forgot to mention No Country for Old Men, which I've also seen a lot too, which I think is top
horrifying movie.
That's great.
The problem is a lot of their best movies I see once because I'm like, God damn it, that ate at my soul, dude. Like, I'm not sure I need to see that again, even though it's a masterful movie. That fucking character with the cattle prod,
Anton Chigurh,
whatever that thing is.
Stilgar.
Horrifying fucking character. Good Lord.
I'm not sure what that says about Joshua and I, because it seems that we find them to be very rewatchable.
Yeah, it's just.
Well, I'm not by any means like a Coen Brothers, I don't know, expert or anything like that, aficionado. I first saw Raising Arizona pretty shortly after it came out, so I was pretty young. I was like maybe 10, 11, 12, somewhere around there. And I was unaware of who the Coen Brothers are. And so I saw this. I remember liking it, thinking it was pretty funny, and then not like connecting that these are two auteurs who are up and coming and that they made a bunch of other movies until like probably around college when Fargo, when did Fargo come out? 96, 94, 90?
It was when I was in college, so it had to be 94, 95, right around there.
Yeah, so right around the time I was like actually becoming aware of like good film as a thing to study and a thing to talk about and a thing to focus on. I just thought Raising Arizona was a really funny movie that I came back to a few times when I was like in my tweens. It just sort of stuck with me all throughout my 20s. And, as I matured and become a parent, like it becomes even like deeper for me. But as far as like Coen Brother movies altogether, like there's a bunch out there that I haven't seen. There's a bunch that I'm like, that's a fantastic movie. Fargo, Oh Brother, We're Out There. Oh Brother, Where
Art Thou?
Out Thou. Yeah. So good. I can't even say the title. Big Lebowski, obviously. No Country for Old Men. Yeah, these are fantastic, indisputable like classics. But there's a bunch of others, like A Serious Man, which I've seen once and I remember it being okay, but never came back to. Never seen Inside Llewyn Davis. Saw Blood Simple in college. But anywho, Coen Brothers aside, Raising Arizona is definitely one of my favorite movies of all time. And
would you say of the Coen Brothers movies you have seen, it's your favorite?
That's tough, because this is the first time I've actually sat down and watched it several times with an intentionally critical eye, getting ready
as
for
a professional film critic.
Yes, obviously, it's how we make our money. Everybody, it's all film criticism and Jersey Mike subs.
This is what we do for a living.
Right.
This is the first time I've actually sat down and watched the movie with a critical eye and thinking about like what you guys might think when you see things and like trying to notice things I'd never seen before. And so I thought it was a great opportunity to actually sit down and do it. And so I was really excited last week when Brian just bumbled into this.
I feel like Brian was baiting you on that one. Like my son is doing this all the time recently where he's like, am I the best? I'm the best, aren't I? And I'm like, yeah, man, you're the best. And he's like, you like me better than Pearl. You like me better than Pearl. You said it. You said I'm your favorite kid. And you're like, no, you jerk. It's baiting me into shit.
No,
like, honestly love you both the same. And they're like, it's not possible. Yes, it is.
That's not true. It's a
like,
movie.
would you say it's your favorite Coen Brothers movie? And you're like, better than Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
But in terms of actually me stumbling into this, it's a movie I really wanted to see. So because I do enjoy the Coen Brothers, so sometimes we go on a string of turds that we have to sit through, and it's like, okay, we need like a palate cleanser of something that's actually watchable. And I was like, okay, this won't disappoint because I love their writing. So I kind of feel like, we do a few odds and ends, here and there, and then we got to refresh with something that's normal or bad, not bad, and then we'll go back to, fucking Bloodsport next week. So it's as the Coen Brothers are wont to do. They create a kind of ridiculous plot. There are some thematic similarities in a lot of their movies. Like I think Greg mentioned last week, where it's like there's always a caper, there's always potentially money involved,
bag of money,
a bag of money.
There's a
This
ransom.
one has a baby in it. So
this one is both. It has a bag of money and a ransom. Yeah,
that's true.
So
and some sort of
everything.
Felons or convicts in it or whatever.
And salt of the earth, salt of the earth bumblefucks who speak like they're reading from like a half written Faulkner novel.
Yeah,
but that's like their favorite.
My finance left me.
Finance.
And everybody is ridiculously quick-witted and has one-liners that you're like, oh, okay.
Well, but stupid also.
Yeah.
Like everyone's really stupid, but also really quick-witted.
Yeah, that's very true. But yeah, Joshua, do you want to do the honors and sort of break down? I outlined the characters, kind of how this story takes shape a little bit.
All right, so
how the tale takes shape.
So set in Tempe, Arizona, I want to say. Not that it matters, just somewhere in Arizona.
Not New York City. Not New York City.
Not New York City.
Or LA.
H.I. McDonough, stick-up criminal who is in and out of the correctional facilities, but he always gets out because he never uses live ammo, and so the parole board continuously just lets him out. And in the course of that, he meets Ed, who is a police officer, and they fall in love, and she keeps booking him. And so anyway, he gets out for good, swears off crime, and they settle down and decide to like start a family and live a normal life. But it turns out that Ed can't have any kids. And so they go through a variety of attempts to try and adopt, but because he's a criminal, the state is not so keen on allowing them to have kids. And so they get despondent and just start to spiral. Hyde starts to contemplate, going back to a life of crime. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the Arizona Quints are born. There is an unpainted Arizona furniture magnate played by Trey Wilson, who they're a rich, well-known business family in Arizona, and they have octuplets. No, not quintuplets.
Yeah.
Quintuplets. And so they get this harebrained idea we're going to kidnap one of these kids. They've got way more kids than they can handle. They kidnap them and then immediately run into improbable situation after improbable situation in the form of High's buddies bust out of prison, played by John Goodman and Williams Forsythe, and start crashing there, and then what is it? Glenn, Sam McMurray, Frances McDormand, they come over for a meal, and hijinks ensue. They're the worst family in the world. Ends up a punch in the face, and he loses his job, and so it just continues to spiral further and further out of control until they're faced with, do we really deserve to have a kid? And we're seem to be putting his life in danger over and over. And there's a bounty hunter out there who's now coming to murder us all, who may or may not be, spun out of the dark dreams of Nicolas Cage, and eventually like spiraling into a showdown. So that's Raising Arizona, and everyone learns a lesson at the end. So.
Yeah, it makes complete sense.
Yeah, sounds plausible.
One thing I had to note, one of my first notes or takeaways from watching this was that Nicolas Cage was actually good in this, which I can't say for a lot of things that he does. If not,
I've said this before. For me, he's like Keanu Reeves, where like play an idiot and he's great. You know, he's great at playing an idiot, and then if you stretch him too much more, he's not so great.
It's really funny because I don't know if did you say that last week?
I've said it.
Yeah,
recently.
Okay, all right. Because I was watching it this time for like the third time before this, and I thought of like Bill and Ted. I was like,
totally.
He's kind of
I feel like I've said this about Kevin Costner. You give him the right role, Kevin Costner is good. If you give him the wrong role, you're like, I'm not even sure you know how to act. It's the same thing with Keanu Reeves. Same thing with Nicolas Cage. The problem with Nicolas Cage is Costner and Reeves like just fall apart and just don't act kind of when they aren't good. But like Nicolas Cage just he turns into like this raging fucking cockroach man where he just like screams and bugs his eyes out, and like it turns into all these memes and gifs and stuff. But you're like, and all these people are like, oh, I love these Cage moments. I'm like, I don't. They fucking suck. Like he's terrible. Like, you know, I enjoy a good performance, you know. Sure, you can like overdo it sometimes and be like funny and stuff, but
he overdoes it a lot.
Too much. Yeah, so like I agree with Brian. I was like, yeah, this one he plays a dipshit and like pretty good. Yeah, pretty good. Yeah. I think this is a very early movie of his. Yeah, I think it's maybe his second or third movie. I don't know for sure. He's a Nepo baby, so he got, you know.
He's one of those Coppolas.
Fucking Coppola,
yeah.
He changed his name to Cage because he didn't want to get ahead on his name Coppola, but it totally didn't help his career at all that his fucking uncle was Francis Ford Coppola. Yeah. I love how delusional these people are. They think it doesn't help, but like, yeah, you totally got made by that guy.
Yeah. I mean, in this movie, he's essentially playing a human that stuck his hand in a like outlet or electrical socket.
Yeah.
Like, you know, which is fine. Like that's all you know, he's a hapless idiot who can't rob a convenience store every time, which is fine. You know, he doesn't have to be like anything, and you know, great.
And he's not a great criminal, but he is
no.
But he's a criminal. He doesn't respect the law. There is like an edge to him, but it's a very goofy edge.
But you get the sense that like he's a criminal because he literally is incapable of being a regular person otherwise. Like he's just so fucking bad at everything that he's like, I don't know. I guess I'll not even load a gun and rob the same fucking convenience store over and over and over again and keep going to jail. You know,
what does he say to Holly Hunter to Ed in the car? He's like, I come from a long line of frontiersmen and outdoors.
Yeah.
To explain away like his rough edges.
And I did read that the part of Ed was particularly written for Holly Hunter, which makes sense. I mean,
it's interesting that Frances McDormand was not the lead because in Blood Simple, she's the lead, and I think that was her first film too. So Coen Brothers' first film, Frances McDormand first film, and then the second movie. I mean, I feel like they do repeat, you know, use their actors over and over again. But it's interesting they went with Holly Hunter instead of Frances McDormand, because I could have seen her in this role as well. But Holly Hunter, I think, is fantastic as Ed. Like, really like her character.
She has a different energy and a different innocence about her. I feel like Frances McDormand is a lot like Catherine O'Hara, you know, where like she can't control her energy, you know, like Catherine O'Hara is just Catherine O'Hara and everything. And she just has a specific energy about her. And I feel like, you know, Frances McDormand has the same, her acting style is a lot like the Coen Brothers writing style. I don't know how else to explain it, but she has a very specific, quirky way of talking and acting. And I've seen her in a bunch of stuff that they didn't direct, that, you know, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbings, Missouri or whatever movie and stuff like, you know, like, she just has a Frances McDormand energy about her. And it wasn't right for the Ed character in this movie. And I don't think that she could have changed it. You know what I mean? I don't think she could have been what they wanted for Ed. But after her performances in the first couple movies, they were like, we got tons of shit we can write for you because you sound like we write.
Yeah, I think her presence comes across, and like other things she's done is she's a more serious, like authoritative presence in some cases, like in Fargo or like Holly Hunter, I feel like can play soft and then also kind of,
steely.
Yeah, like, and
You some bitch.
Yeah, exactly.
Some bitch.
She's both in this movie.
Yeah, she does the same thing even in Oh Brother Where Art Thou, where she's like the ex-husband of George Clooney, but then she's like,
I had a hard time.
She gets, but whatever. But yeah, I feel like Frances McDormand plays like you made a good point about the 3 Billboards one. That role is like you believe her that she's kind of a hard ass, but then it's kind of interesting. But
still Frances McDormand. Yeah.
She's married
nothing,
to one of them.
Nothing wrong with it. It's just that's just her energy,
She's married to one of the Coen brothers. I don't know which one though.
Oh, is she? That's right. Yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah.
So what'd you like about this, Brian?
A lot, honestly. I thought, being a fan of the Coen brothers, I tend to I like their dialogue and their script writing. Like, I like the fact that you hear this time and time again from like actors and things that like their scripts are, it's not open to interpretation. There is no improv. It's what is the written word is what. And I think some actors appreciate that. And some are just like, this sucks. Like I need that wherewithal.
I actually didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah, they do.
Like their scripts are like, that's it. The script, like you don't deviate. I mean, it's on occasion. I think I'd read that some actors that they work with on occasion over and over again, like, like in Big Lebowski, like John Turturro, whatever, improvise a lot of the Jesus stuff. Like, but like they'll let you improvise, but in terms of like what you're saying, it's like the script is the Bible. Like, and that's, you just don't deviate off of it.
I've heard that actors will do improv in Coen Brothers movies and they'll say, thanks for trying that. Could you do it again though, and do it as the script says it?
Do it the way we said we wanted to do it.
Yeah.
You're wasting film.
Yeah, they're like, we don't want you to improvise. We wrote this thing on purpose.
Yeah, I mean, they come across as like writers or screenwriters first, and and it's all very smart, especially the way that like if there's dialect and plus dialogue, and it's very particular.
Yes,
so it's kind of like a Wes Anderson script is a Wes Anderson script visually. I feel like a Coen Brothers dialogue is very specific to them, and that it is very succinct or whatever the pieces. So anyways, with that being said, I always appreciate that about them, but it's sharp, but it's not as sharp as it gets later on. Like those type of things. So I was trying to relate to how this movie fits. It's definitely more fun, like you can tell, like it's the pivot from Blood Simple to be something.
The fun bar was set pretty low with Blood Simple.
Yeah, I'm trying to say though, it's let's go a totally different direction, and like let's purposely make something slapsticky and funny. Like for me, something like a No Country for Old Men is more rewatchable than this. I don't know why though.
I would be the opposite on that. I feel those movies really hard, in my guts, those like life has no meaning and everything's a bleak disaster, because
such better characters,
because there's there's so much in my mind that already thinks that way, and I have to keep pushing it back every day. Just like I'll be doing a job and I'm like, this is fucking meaningless. Like none of the things that we do make any difference. The world is just this spinning orb full of people ticky-tacking away to push back death. And then I see a movie that's like telling me that in a like a right in your face way, and I'm like, God, I already know. I don't need to hear this again.
Yeah, No Country for Old Men it's very real, and it's set in the real world. Yeah, and it's very apparent. Like, oh shit, this could happen. Yeah, I could just be walking down the street and some crazy person starts spraying, and that could be me. But Raising Arizona feels like it's in a manic dream.
And it's funny that you said dream too, because like I was watching this movie, especially when we got to the part where Leonard Smalls, the bounty hunter, assassin, devil, biker guy, grabs him and holds him up, and he sees exact same tattoo that he has, that H.I. has on his arm or something. And it was that moment where I was like, I think this is cementing my idea that this is all a dream of his, that like he is under a cot in the prison looking up, everyone falls asleep, and he finally drifts off and has this dream about getting out, having a life, having weird shit happen, at the end of the movie, the whole coda to the movie is like, and then I had more dreams, and then more dreams, and I dreamed further and further, and I dreamed all the way to when we were old people, and we had all these grandchildren, and it's like really improbable given the setup that we have and all the people we've seen to this point and the things that we know about their biology, you know, and it just made me think like, okay, this was maybe one of those movies where the whole thing is a dream because it's very cartoonish and lots of really weird shit happens.
I mean, there is like a lot of dreamy stuff in here, but I didn't think about that. Like,
because like what do convicts?
I choose not to believe that. But
what do convicts do? Convicts have all this time to just sit around and like think of stuff because there's nothing else to fucking do, you know.
You're like asked me first what I thought. These are Coen Brothers movies for me. Take a few watches for me to like really. So I feel like it's hard to upon one watch to then say, what did I think? I mean, I have an impression of whether or not I thought it was good or not or bad. I thought it was good, but in terms of like the nuance, I'd be curious to hear Joshua's perspective as someone that's seen this a lot, you know, to where like I feel like I'm kind of still absorbing my thoughts around what did I watch? You know, because you know I haven't watched it more than once. But what have you come like? Why do you believe this is? Why are you debunking Greg's?
No, I disagree. I'm not debunking it, but I think it's movie criticism. You can read into it what you want. But I mean, there's dream aspects to it. I definitely think there's like a supernatural element to Leonard Smalls and the connection between them. Yeah. Like in order for High to become a parent. Like he's not suited to it. He has this like outlaw streak in him. He's not very good at it, but he has a streak in him. And then he and Ed are not great for each other on paper or in reality. But in order to become a parent, like the second they kidnap Nathan Jr., shit just starts falling apart. And like the night that they get him home, he dreams up Leonard Smalls. Like he has this dream of this devil that arrives, and then he rides into real life, and then he starts interacting with like real people who are central to the story. But I think it's this mix of he wants to become not an outlaw. He wants to become a father. He really wants this to work, but he can't because he has this outlaw streak, and so he manifests this demon, which is his other half, his outlaw streak, and the only way he can become a parent is to kill that side of him. And so it's like this interplay of like it's reality and it's fantasy, and Leonard Smalls is real, but he also represents that side of him, and it all culminates with the battle where they're like he's bear hugging him to death, and he accidentally pulls High accidentally pulls the pin to the grenade. Only when Leonard Smalls is dead does High become like he puts the outlaw behind him. They bring Nathan Jr. back, and he's able to like see into the future and really put behind him those outlaw ways. That's the way I read it.
It's funny because that's the exact same scene that made me think that like for sure this is a dream, because I saw the same thing. He's like, I have to kill my other self to become the person that I need to become the person that she needs, that Ed needs, right? You know,
but even I mean, Ed's worthy of Ed. Ed is no like prize package yourself.
No, it's Ed's idea to steal the kid, which, by the way, I will say, in a funny movie, is a creepy as fuck scene when he goes in and he's like picking up all the babies and like trying them. I was like, this is creepy as fuck, man. And he looks like a lunatic, and he's just like picking up these poor people are like sitting downstairs, and then upstairs this guy's squeezing all the babies. Like,
I think I got the best one.
I got 2 kids now, so that really like creeped the fuck out of me.
I didn't know what was going on because that scene goes on for a long time.
Yeah, it does.
And they're all kind of escaping, and I was like, "Is this a dream sequence?" Like,
I know the whole thing seems like a
Baby's Day Out
to
or
me.
something.
That's what I mean. The whole movie seems like a dream sequence.
They all look the same, and and they're all just escaping. And I was like, why doesn't he just pick one and go?
With the camera work on the ground at the baby eye level, like that's such a good.
This is another Coen Brothers hallmark though, where they just create these frustrating characters that that just do stupid things when they could do one simple like good thing that would get them out of something, or that would help them. It's another one where you're like, stop fucking around with the babies, just take a baby. Just get the fuck out of there.
A baby.
I know there's so many babies. Like you just
that's
keep
now a
picking
sound
them
clip
up
from you.
Just take a baby. Come on, there's so many.
One thing I did notice, that I thought was kind of an interesting. Anybody who comes in contact with the baby, like, falls in love with the baby.
Totally
with the baby.
immediately.
Yeah, it changes
Gail
their
and
life.
Avelle.
Yeah,
Even Gail,
changes their
like,
life. Yeah,
like, oh, the baby. Like, everyone like falls in love with this angelic little baby. Even
yeah.
Dot and the other guy, it's like, oh, like, everyone loves the baby.
And you know, John Goodman and the other guy, what's his name, William Forsythe, when they escape from prison, it's like a birth scene, right? It's like this horrible birth scene where, like, you know, like, oh God, push, you know, like, they have to, like,
And John Goodman does some outstanding yelling in this movie.
He has to
like,
get out of there.
You're in the middle of a prison break,
and I know exactly. He's just like bellowing, like, you know, just this monster on the lawn. But yeah, he comes out of the mud. He like births himself out of the mud, and then he pulls his brother out like a breech, you know, like feet first.
Feet first. Yeah.
And it's all like slime coming off him, like muck everywhere. It's very primordial and like, you know, like cave birth, you know, going on.
We don't always smell like this, ma'am.
Yeah. Like, yeah, those characters are funny. But also you're like, you know, if you're on Ed's side in this movie where you're like, yeah, they did the wrong thing, but you want them to kind of make it work, you know, you're like, get these guys the fuck out of the house.
But I thought that's what's funny is because High is one of these guys. So he's got this like
and he's
side
just
of him
trying
that's
not
like,
to be.
Yeah, but he's like, you know,
He's being tempted.
the pull,
being tempted. Yeah.
The temptation of just being, you know, one of them again is very, you know, it's always that pull.
But I was gonna say, I think that's one of the things that makes this movie like so masterful is that High and Ed have no right to this child. As like, you should not be rooting for them whatsoever as an audience member, but you do.
I don't,
because they're so likable. Because the Coen brothers like give them such a great script and flesh them out, and so despite the fact that they are doing something reprehensible, you want to believe there's good in them and that this is going to turn out okay.
Sort of. Mostly Ed. You know, like
she's the one that was her point.
I know, but like her motives are clear. You know,
get
like,
back up there and get me a baby.
She just wants someone to love. You know, she wants a baby so bad, and like he doesn't want a baby. He just like wants her to not be mad. You know, like he doesn't. He knows he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. You know, like he never want to be a father. He just fell in love with Ed, and she wants a baby, so he's like, I'm gonna get you one.
Well, he just wants to continue being a criminal.
Well, I mean, yeah, maybe he doesn't want to at first, but that scene where they bring Nathan Jr. home to the trailer, not his real home, but and they sit him down and they're sitting like he's like giving him the tour. Like, this is the family unit where we've dreamt about you many a day, and I found that really like compelling and really believable, and you know, I felt something. It really felt like he really wanted to be a father in that moment. I didn't, you know, believe it beforehand or even after, but in that moment, I think that scene really underlines like they're both in this. They both would do their best to take care of Nathan Jr. Their best would not be nearly good enough, but they would do their best.
Totally fuck him up. Yeah.
But that whole conversation, I feel like, does a decent job of driving the plot, right? Because then that plants the seed of, does High really want a married with children life? And then that forces him to go, you know, to buck and then go and rob the other thing. And that starts the whole chain reaction with the great scene, by the way, of between the time he robs it, grabs the Huggies, and like the running around in the dog scene. Like, that's a great chase scene. And it goes on for a while, but it's just, I thought it was really well done and funny. But
well, I feel like High, like when we lived in Chicago, we were walking our dog in the park, this big park called Douglas Park, and we saw this tiny little ratty dog running in front of a bus, like a city bus. And my wife was like, oh my God, we got to help that dog, you know? So I ran across the street, and this dog was like lying in the dirt, this little rat dog. And I was like, oh shit. And he started running away from me, and then he just fell over on his side, and he like just stuck his legs up like, I surrender. I picked him up. He stank like garbage. There were like flies on him. And I carried him back to our house, and I put him in our yard. And as soon as I put him in our yard, he boinged up and grabbed his little legs, around his front legs, around my leg, and like hugged my leg as hard as he could. And I was like, I guess you live here, you little bastard. And like, he was feral. He lived on trash. And Margaret took him to all these obedience classes. Walking him was like you caught a fish that was trying to get away as hard as it could, on a leash, and she put him through all these obedience classes, and like he kept a feral edge about him, but at the end he was like a really good, lovely little dude, that we had in our house. And I feel like, High is that kind of character, like he's this feral little dude, but like you can work with him. You know what I mean? Like he's not irredeemable. Like and so he goes through this phase where like Holly Hunter basically adopts him, right? She brings him in, and then he's like miserable, like I don't know how to be, a human. And slowly he starts deferalizing a little bit, and horrible things have to happen to deferalize him. But like at the core, and that's why he keeps going back to the parole board, and you hear these details about him. We're like, we know you don't use live ammunition, and stuff like that. Like they're telling you at the core, this is a redeemable human being, like John Goodman and his brother. No, not redeemable human beings. They even like go back to jail, or he imagines they do in the dream.
We let ourselves out on our own recognizance.
Yeah.
I feel it didn't have anything to offer us
anymore. So yeah, I get the feeling that Nicolas Cage's character is like Augie the dog, which is what we named him because we found him on Ogden Avenue. A feral little creature that is slowly redeemable if you put the work in. Yeah, that's the other thing that just kept lending itself to me thinking that the whole thing was a dream, because like, whether bad things happened or good things happened, strange, unusual, like plot shifting things kept happening that either drove them forward or worked out for them extraordinarily well. Like when they returned the baby, the guy's like, oh, thanks for giving me my baby back. I have this giant gun, but like, you're the ones that stole them, aren't you? Aw, you two kids. Well, you run off now. I got no hard feelings over the whole thing. And hey, how about a little bit of a relationship advice from the guy whose baby you stole right before I leave to go off to bed? And I left my giant gun in the crib with the kid. Yeah, like things work out so weirdly well a lot of times, despite all the mishaps.
Oh, I want to go back to one thing I noticed. It's about Greg. Because after 44 episodes, one thing that I always noticed that influences your ratings a lot, which I think is kind of interesting, which is you like reality, like, and you want characters to be likable and believable. And if they aren't, I feel like that heavily influences your opinion on a movie, because you bring it up all the time. We're like, I don't care about XYZ characters. This is not real. Yeah. Like fanciful endings are. I'm just curious. Like, is that something that you look for in terms of like movies that you actually like? You want believability, or like
I want a movie to be don't be inconsistent. My big problem is with inconsistency. Like if there's a movie where it's a chase against time movie where Snake Plissken has bombs in his neck and they're going to go off in 24 hours and he spends all kinds of time dicking around New York City, fucking talking to people, like listening to people's endless monologues when he has 3 minutes left to live and he's still not even off the damn island. Get the fuck off the island. Like that bugs me. Because it's a chase movie, and if it's a chase movie, then make it a chase movie, yeah. Keep it honest to the style. Like the Moulin Rouge is a great example of a really stylized movie that I liked because it stuck to the style, like they have all this crazy shit occur. They have these unrealistic, singing numbers and stuff like that. But he totally nailed the style the whole way through. It's really consistent the whole way through. But yeah, that's stylistically inconsistent movies bug me. And yeah, like I even if a character is reprehensible, I have to care about them. Like Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal Lecter is a reprehensible character, but he's interesting. I care about him because he's interesting, not because I like him or I think he's nice. But like the Warriors had all these characters where I'm like, you don't have a personality at all. And when a train ran over you, I didn't care because nobody made me care.
Or
right?
didn't even notice that you were dead.
Right, exactly. Yeah, like they don't even talk about you anymore.
They could have put another person in a leather vest.
Yeah.
Next scene,
And
I'd be like, "Oh, you're back."
I know, and I'll admit, if they killed Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs, I'd have been like, "Oh, I kind of like that guy. I kind of didn't
more
want
to
him to die. He was interesting." Yeah, so you don't have to be nice. You don't have to be likable. You don't have to be someone I want to have a beer with. You just have to be interesting.
You just have to have a purpose.
Have a fucking purpose. Yeah, as a character that was written, as an actor who got that character and was tasked with making it into something. Yeah, exactly.
So how do these characters in Raising Arizona stack up against that metric that you got?
Yeah, this is a consistent movie. Like, they start out with a style, they stick with a fucking style. This is why I like Coen Brothers movies a lot, is because they stick to their fucking gig. This is what they always tell you in improv, is like, don't start out as one type of character, and then when someone enters the scene, you change your character. You stick with your fucking gig. And that's what these guys do again and again and again in the movies that they make. The writing is consistent. The characters that they write, even if they're unrealistic, even if they have an unrealistic way of talking, they have a consistent unrealistic way of talking, and if they sound like writerly types speaking in folksy tropes, they continue to sound like writerly types speaking in folksy tropes, even though they came out of a fucking prison. So yeah, like the color schemes they use, the way that people and their acting styles, the way these people are directed, the writing. So yeah, across the board, the acting, the writing, the way they shoot it, everything's consistent. It's loony, it's a cartoon, but it doesn't break out, into some like musing on life or anything like that in the middle of it.
So I mean, given what you just said, I think that's you made me think of something. That's why I think I disagree with you on the whole dream thing. I'm starting from the spot of, this is not a real world. This is a fantastical world. And because it's a fantastical world and not a real world, the dream aspect is unnecessary. Like, it doesn't need to have a dream to make it a real world. It can stay from start to finish a semi-fantastical world that you don't necessarily need to believe lines up with our reality.
Yeah. For me, like, that also works. But for me, watching it a couple times, I was like, this is really like a hero's tale where you start out with an unlikely hero and then he has to fight himself to get to the place that he needs to be a worthy hero at the end of the movie. And at the end of the movie, for me, I was like, give the kid back. Give the kid back. Give the kid back. I know they have a lot of kids. I know you're really happy with the kid in your house. Give the kid back.
And I loved the development that they gave to Nathan Arizona Sr. And his wife to a lesser extent, but they did imply a lot more care there, because you're right. They show him very cold in the beginning. They're just down there staring up, like, your kids are making, like, you just had them. Yeah. Even though they're like 8 months old, 9 months old.
Yeah, exactly. They're old enough to run around and crawl around and shit.
Yeah, they're not newborns in the movie. No, but you're like, go up there and fucking find out what's going on with your kids. But they're just sitting there. And then the husband very like gruffly like makes his wife go up there, because that's her job, not his job. Exactly. So you're set up to not like them. But over time, like his interaction with the FBI, like, I love that. Like, he's like, get out there and find there. You're in the one place where I know he's
I love that line. He's like, it's so you're in the one place I know they're not. Yeah. He's not.
And then at the end where he's like, he's explaining to them, to Hi and Ed after they return the baby. And there's that very tender moment where he like reflects on, I don't know what I'd do if she ever left me. Mm-hmm. Like, I love that arc, because it just goes the full gamut, where at the end you're like, this Arizona family, they're actually pretty good.
I don't know necessarily if we have done Raising Arizona justice. However, in an effort of time, we should probably move on to what we thought of this thing. Give it a rating. The only one I can think of would be, let's say, an F is Woody Woodpecker, and A is Mr. Horsepower, based on this type of this movie. So I don't, in real life, I don't know which is the name. We're gonna
I-
go with it. We're just gonna go with it.
I do hate Woody Woodpecker. He's one of my most hated cartoon characters of all time. So
Is it because he screams all the time?
that works for me. He's just fucking.
He's
He's just an
laughing.
asshole.
He's a jerk.
Such
man.
an asshole. He's no redeemable qualities. He's just a bragging,
he's the
shitty
antagonist,
asshole.
yeah.
Yeah, he's just a dick.
Who wants to go first?
I can go first since this was one of my favorite movies of all time. We did not touch on. There's a lot that I wanted to touch
I feel
on.
like we haven't.
But that's
hit
okay.
all these
That's okay.
things, but
I mean, I can do it real. Like things I love about this movie. I love all the little tiny characters. Just the one-liners. They're all so smart. They're all so silly. They're very very memorable. Like the government do take a bite. Don't cheat.
You do love that.
There is not a paycheck that I get
exactly
that I don't quote that in my head every time I see it. There's what's his name? Emmett Walsh.
Emmett Walsh.
Yeah, he's from Blood Simple as well as a million other things, but he
Yeah.
just makes that cameo, or is that spherical object
Father-in-law.
residing in the road. But yeah, there's the whole parole board. There's all these little tiny characters that are just on the side, and you can forget about them afterwards, but they just flesh the universe out.
Convenience store guy.
The
convenience store guy was my favorite.
not unless round is
Yeah, it's favorite.
Yeah, does it make any
That's
funny
right. It's
shapes?
Funny.
They spend a lot of time like just I'm sure there were others that got cut or whatever, and those are like the best ones. But oh god, I love all those hayseeds that are like the gag of like lying on the ground and counting to 100.
Hayseeds in the bank. Yeah.
Yeah. I love how this movie like is very anti-Reagan and anti-right wing. There's all these little Easter eggs in there. Some bitch Reagan in the White House, and there's like JFK picture in the cell. Yeah, there's all these little things. Yeah.
Well, there's the Mondale. What's her name?
Ferraro.
Yeah. Mondale Ferraro bumper sticker on the car they steal. I noticed that for sure. I was like,
Gail and Avell, they get the tip about the heist they want to pull from Nixon's agricultural secretary, who's in prison for soliciting a cop.
With like his entire administration.
There's like all these little fuck yous to like Reagan and the right on there that I love. And I love the open ending that we talked about, that whether it's a dream or not. I love that it leaves on that mark where you have hope. Like Nathan Arizona sets it up for don't split up without sleeping on it first, and there's good in you, and there's reason for you to hope, and then he has that dream, and against all your better judgment, you're like you want to hope for him, and so you leave the story thinking maybe it's a happy ending, even though they have no right to deserve expect a happy ending. I still find that like a very compelling ending, and it's not a movie that like spoon feeds a lot of things to you. There's a lot you can read into it, and there's layers to it, and you can debate it, but it's just a madcap crazy comedy with all these insane characters and insane situations that's just really really well done. So this is one of my favorite movies of all time. I would take it on a desert island. This is an A+ for me. No doubt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Noted.
Yeah. I love the Coen Brothers stuff. Like I said earlier, they're stylistically very consistent in all their work. So yeah, it doesn't have to be realistic for me. This movie isn't realistic at all, but it's consistently unrealistic, and I don't really care whether it's a dream or whether it's just an alternate world, a Twilight Zone, bizarro cartoon world of people that all act and talk like this. It's still consistent, and it's still interesting to me. I like their writing style, the Coen Brothers. I feel like it often sounds like they think it's funny that Hayseeds say intelligent sounding things. I think that's part of their thing that they love, because they have all kinds of like idiot boobs with Southern accents being like, now I reckon that the Lord himself was particular about this sort of thing happening, and like nobody fucking talks that way, but they write that way, and it's interesting to hear. And it really lends some, poignance to the beginning and the ending of the movie that it kind of, wouldn't have otherwise, the specific way that they write. So I find that interesting. And I do root for the character of High and Ed, but especially High, because he's the big fuck up that, For me, I am interested in stories where there is a possibility of redemption, call me a bleeding heart liberal or whatever, but like I have met people who have changed their lives. Like I worked at this Center for Wrongful Convictions in Chicago, and one of the guys that was a volunteer there, had spent his life like he held up a bank, armed robbery and stuff like that. And he flipped his life around and was helping wrongfully convicted people get let out of jail. And like, I have to believe that that's possible, and I know that it is. So it's interesting for me when there are possibly redeemable characters in a movie, no matter how fucked up they are. I respect and admire the later Coen Brothers work where they have irredeemable characters, and real like No Country for Old Men, which is a grim fucking movie. It's grim, dude. And it just ends with Tommy Lee Jones being like, I don't know what the world is anymore, and I'm going to die soon. And I guess I'm just going to sit here and look out at the dusty, desolate fucking desert and wait for death. Like
I need to watch that.
That's masterfully done, but god damn, I don't want to go to bed after seeing that movie. So yeah, there are a lot of movies like that I respect more, but movies like this, I do enjoy the possibility of redemption, and Augie, a character you can pull off the street covered in flies and stinking of trash and somehow get that dude in the end of a leash happily walking along and, enjoying his life better. So
to Augie.
Yes. He made it to Tennessee. He made it all the way to Tennessee. We had him for like 17 years or something.
Oh my God. Damn, dude.
Yeah. Little dogs, man. They last a long
dog,
time. Yeah. But yeah, like overall, there is a lot of, there's not a lot. There's some stuff in this that irritates me. The screeching, sometimes it gets too cartoonish, and I'm like, yeah, I'd like a little more groundedness here. So overall, I would give it a B+. I don't think it's their masterwork or anything. It's not my favorite movie of all time. It's a movie I'd watch again for sure. I'd be like, oh, Raising Arizona's on. Cool, I'll watch that. But I don't have the regard for it that you do. I just think it's a fun and interesting movie. And kind of like if you had a Coen Brothers museum, it'd be like you walk through the door, blood simple is in the entranceway, and this is in the second room, and you're like, oh yeah, we're moving from the beginning of their craft to like you see the power increasing in the way that they can create movies. And yeah, this is a second room movie for them, for me, but they're an A duo for most of their movies. So for me, this is a B+ second room movie.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Greg said. I consider myself a very big Coen Brothers fan. I'm gonna just get out there and throw out in front. I give us a B, and it's mainly because there are films like No Country for Old Men, Fargo, incredibly quotable to me. Big Lebowski. I think there are better drawn characters, and like this movie did not like suck me into the story as much. It felt very cartoony. It kind of felt like you're watching kind of a Looney Tunes type thing. Whereas something like Fargo or whatever, like I was engrossed in that story, like those type No Country for Old Men, or I enjoyed A Serious Man, like those ones. This one slapsticky. It's not meant to be as serious, and I think I just tend to lean towards the more serious works of theirs. But I'm giving it a B because in comparison to their other films is kind of how I feel about it. I would definitely rewatch it. I feel like I need, like, the fact when you guys mentioned a lot of these nuances, I didn't catch it. I think like we've talked about this numerous times, trying to do this in a hurried state. Like a lot is like I'm trying to get through. Like I want to process. I'm missing a lot of the little things. So I give it a B with room to grow, and the fact that I would definitely rewatch it. I do feel I enjoyed all the characters. I think it's very well cast. I could, like I said, Nicolas Cage is good in it. I always love John Goodman. Holly Hunter's great. I love the playful dichotomy they use across all their, like a lot of the, like you just met like the hayseed that speaks wisdom. Like it's the thing. It's like an idiot that's really smart, or right, convicts that
wise fools.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, B for me. I wish I had watched this one twice, just because I think I would have had a more formulated, concrete opinion on it. But I think if I look at it across, if something like Fargo or Big Lebowski's an A+, then I think it can become, let's revisit this, and we'll go back at episode X 100 or something and talk about movies we've rewatched, and then maybe regraded. But I feel like this could be something that gets a higher grade later on down the road.
I feel like part of my grade going from a B to a B+ is Holly Hunter. We didn't talk about her hardly at all.
Yeah,
but I'm like, she is so pure in this movie. She's just, her eyes are just like, you can see straight through them and into her thoughts, the whole movie. And no one else is like that in this movie. Everyone is doing a lot of shtick. She's really, really like weird. She's playing a cartoon character, but like doing it in a really grounded way that's almost stylistically inconsistent with the rest of this, but not enough to make it bothersome. But I'm like, she's the best person in this movie by a whole bunch. She does a great job, and you always understand her motivations. You never question, like, why is she fucking doing this? Like,
I question why he wants to steal a baby.
I don't question why she wants to steal a baby. Yeah, like
I think they set that up pretty good. Like,
desperate.
Back
and and again, going back to the Reagan era stuff, it does skewer the adoption, problem in America. Like, oh, you want a white baby? You're giving away black babies. Like, the adoption system here is just as broken as the healthcare system and the education system.
Every other system.
So many other systems that we should be the best in the world at because of how rich we are, but we just don't seem to fucking care about it. So yeah, it does.
The Nathan Arizonas of the world have.
Yeah, right. Billionaires of the world. They're 5 babies. Stick a fork in that a little bit and poke at it a little too. But yeah.
Now you're making me think I should have went B+.
Don't change your grade, man.
You do you.
Yeah.
I know. I just, it's one of those things where I know it's good. I just don't.
Yeah, it's the stuff bothered me about it too. Like
I know there's better Coen Brothers movies. I love this movie, so yeah, it's an A+ for me.
Well, should we put a pin in this nappy?
Let's put a pin in it, yeah. Yeah, totally.
And talk about next week. That would be Joshua's selection.
Yeah,
Joshua.
There are 2 that I was weighing doing, but I think I've decided I'm gonna do.
I know what you're.
I Am Trying to Break Your Heart.
I Am Trying.
Documentary about Wilco Yankee Hotel Foxtrot. I have not seen this. I've seen the first 10 minutes of it.
Oh,
and I turned it off because I felt Jeff Tweedy was being an asshole, and I wasn't in the mood for it. So.
Oh, he is. He's also really good at music. And stuff,
I love Wilco, or at least the earlier Wilco albums. But
perfect pivot in their career. I think they kind of captured lightning in a bottle with that documentary.
Yeah, and the kicking out what's his name? Jay Bennett. I was like, that was a mistake. We can look back on that now and say that was a mistake, my friend.
Like I say in many episodes, he's dead.
I know, it's weird. He died.
I think he died.
He died, I think.
Well,
okay then.
I will. We'll see you then.
All right.
You son of a bitch. You son of a bitch. It's all, film criticism and Jersey Mike subs.